Okay, today I'm going to be teaching you how to add integers, or another word for integers is positive and negative whole numbers. There's a lot of rules here, but I'm going to spend probably the next 10 minutes talking about this before we get started. So if you'll go ahead and just pay attention here, there's nothing you need to write. But what we're going to do is we're going to introduce some new concepts here. You probably saw these in 7th grade. So for example, if I was, let's say I was adding 3 plus 2, I could draw this with chips. So what I could do is I could make positive chips are yellow and negative chips are red. So 3 plus 2 would be 3 yellows and 2 more yellows, right? So if I had 3 yellows and 2 yellows, world's easiest problem, that would be 5, right? Now, if I was adding negative 3 plus negative 2, first of all, I like putting negatives in parentheses if they're second. But if I was doing that problem, well, in this case, I would have 3 reds and 2 more reds. So if I have 3 reds and 2 more reds, I have 5 reds. So that would be negative 3 plus negative 2 equals negative 5. Pretty simple. Now let's introduce a new concept. If I add together 1 yellow chip plus 1 red chip, so if I add these together, so if I have 1 yellow plus 1 red, what do you think they equal? Well, that'd be a positive 1 plus a negative 1, and most people would have no problem saying, well, that makes 0. When you have 1 red chip and 1 yellow chip together, we call that a 0 pair. We call it a 0 pair because when you add a positive 1 and a negative 1, they make 0. So a yellow chip and a red chip make 0 when you see them. So let's do some math with it. If I had, let's say, negative 3 plus positive 2, what would that look like with chips? Well, negative 3 means 3 red chips, right? 1, 2, 3. And positive 2 means 2 yellow chips, 1, 2. Now, what we see here now is we do have 5 chips, but what color are they? Well, they're both colors, so that's kind of nonsense. This is what you're going to do. Every time I have a red and a yellow that I'm adding together, these together cross each other out because they make 0. That makes 0, they're gone. That makes 0, they're gone. Negative 3 plus 2 is 1 red chip, so it's negative 1. That is not hard at all. So let's try another one. Let's try negative 2 plus 4. So how would this look? Well, in this case, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 yellows and 2 reds, right? 4 yellows and 2 reds. What would I do now? Well, anytime I have a yellow and a red being added together, they make 0. So those two make 0. Those two make 0. 2 reds and 4 yellows make 2 yellows, so it's positive 2. So that's the idea behind what we're doing here. And instead of teaching you a bunch of rules, I just want you to use common sense. If I'm adding, let's say, negative 10 plus 15, I'm not going to sit there and grab 15 red chips and, 15 yellow chips and 10 red chips. What I want you to start doing is really think about what's going on. What would negative 10 look like? Will it be 10 red chips? What would 15 look like? Will it be 15 yellow chips? And if you start putting them together, what are you going to end up doing? Making 0 pairs. I hope you see that. You'll be making 10 0 pairs. 10 of the reds would go with 10 of the yellows. So in a sense, all you'd be doing is subtracting those two numbers and taking the sign of the bigger number, right? So subtract those two, you'd have 5, And what color would my answer be? Would I have red chips left over, or would I have yellow chips left over? Well, I'd have yellow chips left over, so this would have to be positive 5. Hope that makes sense to you. So that's the idea behind what we're about to do here. But listen, don't get caught up in a bunch of rules. Really think about the math as chips, and it usually is a lot easier. All right. So now let's get to the actual rules. Rule number 1. When adding, this is for same sign numbers. When adding two numbers with the same sign, add them and take their sign. What does that mean? Well, when I had yellow chips plus yellow chips, I made more yellow chips. When I had red chips plus red chips, I made more red chips. That's all that's saying there. That's common sense. So if they're the same sign, if I'm adding two positives or two negatives, you add them together and you take their sign. Yellow chips plus yellow chips make more yellow chips. Red chips plus red chips make more red chips. All right, rule number 2, the harder one, right? Rule number 2, when they're different signs. When adding two numbers with different signs, you subtract them and take the sign of the number with more chips. What do I mean by that? That's kind of confusing. So if I'm adding -3 plus a +2, I subtract the two numbers. 3 minus 2 is 1. And then I take the sign of the number with more chips. Who had more chips? Did the red have more chips or did the yellow? The red had more chips, so that now when we make 0 pairs, I'm going to have a leftover red. Here, -2 plus 4, I made 2 0 pairs, so I subtract 4 minus 2 is 2. And my answer is going to be positive because I had leftover yellow chips. Hope that makes sense. So that's the two basic rules. If they have the same sign, you add them, and if they have different signs, you subtract them. And that's a little bit confusing for some people at first. So what I've gone ahead and done is made it a little bit easier for you. Every problem you do in this chapter, you must always do this. Step 1, write the rule number. Step 2, write the keyword. Step 3, solve it. So the rule number for each problem is rule 1 or rule 2. The key word is not same sign or different signs. The key word is what do you do? Rule 1, when adding two numbers with the same sign, this is the key. Add them is the key. Yellow plus yellow make more yellow. Red plus red make more red. That's the key word, add. Different signs. When adding two numbers with different signs, the key word is subtract them. That's the key word. The key word is either add or subtract. Write the rule number. It's either rule number 1, you can just write R number 1, or it's R number 2. That's really poor handwriting, but you get the idea. All right, rule 1 and rule 2. Then you solve it. So don't get ahead of me here. Don't start doing this in your head. Follow the rules. And by the end of this chapter, you're going to be really good with adding and subtracting negative numbers, which is very important in algebra. So here's what you do. First things first, you look at the two numbers. Are they the same sign? Are they different? Are they both yellow? Are they both red? Or are they different from each other? Well, they're both yellow, so they're the same sign. So same sign numbers is rule number 1. So all I do, right below it, I write R number 1. And then I write the key word. What's the key word for rule number 1? Add. Write the rule, write the key word, then do the math. It says to add them, so 7 plus 12 is 19. And it's positive 19 because yellow plus yellow make more yellow. Next problem, -8 plus -12, same sign or different signs. Red chips plus red chips, they're the same. So once again, this is rule number 1. What's the key word? When adding two numbers with the same sign, add them. So the key word is add again. -8 plus -12, 8 red chips plus 12 red chips is 20. So you write 20, but be careful here. Red chips plus red chips don't magically turn into yellow chips. Red chips plus red chips make more red chips, so it's -20. All right, next problem. Negative 12 plus 15. These are red chips. These are yellow chips. That means they're different signs. That makes it rule number 2. Rule number 2 says subtract them. So we can just write sub. And that's what we do. 15 minus 12 is 3. And then this is the only hard part. Is my answer positive 3 or is my answer negative 3? Hopefully by now you can see that it's positive 3 because when I make my 0 pairs, I'd have 12 red chips and 15 yellow chips. When I make my 0 pairs, I would have leftover positive chips, so it's positive 3. Another example, 15 plus a negative 12. Positive, these are yellow chips, these are red chips, these are positive, these are negative. That makes them different signs. So that's rule number 2. Rule 2 says to subtract. That's the key word. Do what it says. 17 minus 12 is 5. Determine if it's positive or negative. If I had 17 yellow chips and 12 red chips, I would have leftover yellow chips, so it's positive 5. Yeah? All right, next example. Negative 1.5 plus negative 1.7. Now, you don't know what, it's a little bit harder to visualize chips here, but hopefully by now you understand the concept. These are red chips, these are red chips. That makes them the same color, that's the same sign. So that's rule number 1. Red chips plus red chips make more red chips, so you add them. Keywords add. Negative 1.5 plus negative 1.7 is 1.5 plus 1.7 is 3.2. And if you write 3.2, you're wrong because what do you have to do? Red chips plus red chips make more red chips. It's negative. Let's try the next one. Negative 1.25 plus 7.5. Same sign or different signs? Different, so that's rule number 2. Do I add them or subtract them? Rule 2 says to subtract them. You don't have to memorize that, just think common sense. If I have 7 yellow chips and 1 red chip, I'm going to make 0 pairs. I'm going to subtract. Keyword subtract. Subtract them. 7.5 minus $1.25. Think money. 7.50 minus $1.25 is 6.25. And then what color is the answer going to be? If I have 1 red chip and 7 yellow chips, I'm going to have leftover positive, so it's positive 6.25. For example 7, you have a couple options here. Option number 1, option number 1 is you can just do smaller problems one at a time. You could do this problem first, then do that problem second, then bring the 2 answers together. But me personally, what I like to do is rewrite it with all the same signs next to each other. And later in this chapter, in this unit, you'll have a lesson on this of why you can rewrite these like this. All right, negative 7 plus negative 3 plus 5 plus 12. What I would do is I would do these first because red chips plus red chips, that's rule number 1, which means add. And so is that. That's rule number 1, add. So what I can do is I can break it off into 2 problems. Negative 7 plus negative 3 makes negative 10 red chips, plus 5 yellow chips plus 12 yellow chips is another rule number 1. So that's 17. And now I do this problem. Red chips plus yellow chips, that's different signs. So that's rule 2. And keyword for rule number 2 is subtract, right? Subtract them. 7 minus 10 is 7. Positive 7 or a negative 7? Well, if I had 10 red chips and 17 yellow chips, I'm going to have leftover yellows, so it's positive 7 is my answer. And there you have it. Adding integers. Very important concept. It's something that by the end of this unit you have to be perfect at. You can't be making mistakes with it anymore, but hopefully going back and thinking of it as chips and remembering what these rules are, write the rule each time, write the keyword, then solve it. Hopefully you won't make very many mistakes. Good luck.